Welcome back, everyone. Now that we know how to create our custom methods, and now that we know how execution flow works, how Java Virtual Machine executes our methods, let's look into some more complex method creations. Okay, now before we do so, let me share one keyword with you in Java. You see how we declare public static void main and we say something string with args? This is our main method, right? This is called method signature. The same applies to all methods, including our 3 lines method. It has a signature of public static void, name is 3 lines, and open empty parentheses. And our new line method has similar signature. It is public, it is static, it is void. Its name is new line, and it has empty parentheses. Now, we will down the road, we will see what public is, what static is, what void is. All these words have some meaning, and we will look into them down the road. Okay, now let's proceed. To do so, let's go ahead and open up a new class where we'll experience. And this class we will call methods, methods accepting values. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me give you an example. Let's create our main method. Now that we know our signature, I believe you know this by heart. If you still are not able to remember it, please type it as many times as needed to remember it by heart. Now, we have already seen this system out println, and we said hello world. Now, before I show you what I mean, where I want to take this to, I want to create a custom method, void method no values accepted. So we're gonna call it, this is a long name for a method. Depending on what project you work, sometimes you're gonna have method names long like this, but usually it is not recommended. Keep your method names short and precise. So so what I'm gonna do with this method is I'm going to just system out println no value accepted. Print line, right? So I'm gonna say hello world, and I'm going to say I'm gonna call my method no, and if you hold control, this is for Windows users, if you hold control and while holding it press space, Java will automatically fill the rest up for you. I'm sorry, not Java, Eclipse IDE will automatically fill the rest up for you. If you have multiple method names that are similar to each other, it will give you options. Okay, now what we did in this simple program is we called our basic system print line method. Also, we created a custom method that takes nothing as a value. So it's just a name, method no values accepted, empty parentheses. And what this does is it prints out no value accepted, correct? So this program you can automatically say is a simple program. It will print out hello world followed by no value accepted. No surprise out there. Now let me ask you this. What if I come in here and change this to hi there? What is gonna happen if I run this program? It's going to print hi there, but it's still going to keep printing no value accepted, right? So because when I call this method, I can't pass anything within parentheses, whereas in this method that is coming from system class, I can add something here and it will change printing. So this method is accepting value. Or in Java jargon, we're going to say this method accepts parameters. So let's create, and one more thing before, let's keep it here because we're going to come into methods that accept multiple parameters down the road. So let's create a method void accepting string, or let's call it acceptance string. Open up your parentheses. Right now, in this time, we're not going to leave this space between parentheses empty. We're going to say string argument. Close parentheses, open your curly braces, close your curly braces. compiler is not complaining. We don't see any errors, any warnings anywhere. What happened here is I declared this is the signature of my new method called accepting string. This method accepts a string argument or a string parameter. So you can pass in a string parameter. What I'm going to do here, you see this argument? This argument right now is a variable of this method. This variable right now is empty. There is nothing. So string argument value of this is empty string or null, right? So, but this declaration, this kind of a signature allows me to pass in a string when I call this method next time. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create another local method within this block. So within this, I'm sorry, I'm going to create another local variable within this methods block, right? So I'm going to say string local argument or local string is equal to I will not declare anything, but I will reassign the value of argument here, right? So nothing complaining. It's just warning me that I'm not using this local string. I declared it, but I haven't used it. So what is happening is this argument that is going to be changed by the user, the value of this argument is going to be taken and assigned to my local string within this method. Okay, so now I'm going to print out local string. Okay. By the way, if you want Eclipse to help you with the print out statement, SOUT or sysout and then control and space will do it for you. Okay, I usually go for SOUT control space. Okay, now back to where we're left off. One more time, we created a special method signature that allows us to pass in an argument, to pass in a value, right? Or pass in a parameter. This argument, this value, or this parameter is then going to be reassigned to our local string within the method, within this specific custom method. Then I'm going to print it out. Now, right now, I'm not going to call the method no value accepted anymore, but instead, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to call accepting string method, right? And Eclipse IDE is automatically going to tell me that you need to input a string argument here. It will highlight the word argument for me. So what I will pass here is, I'll say hello, correct? Now it's not complaining anymore. So I passed in a string. And when I run this program, don't be surprised when this program prints out hi there and then hello. Okay, so let's run it. Hi there, hello. So what happened is, imagine Java stack memory. What happened is this just printed out and this stack got this stack memory allocation got destroyed, right? But when I come to this method here, I take this value hello as string value, pass it into this argument, and then I take this argument's value, assign it to my local string, and then I come here, this local string is being printed. So let's edit it a little bit, right? Method says, let's concatenate the value of a local string that's coming from argument to the string method says. So when I print this now, when I run this program now, it's going to say, hi there, coming from my system out, print line, right? And it's going to call this method now, and we're going to pass in a parameter, a string parameter with a value of hello, and that is going to be assigned here, and it is going to be printed as method says hello. Okay, now to avoid confusion, let's now take out this print line that is printing out hello, right? When I run this, it's just going to print method says hello. Okay, now all these that we did here, we took an argument, we assigned its value to a local string. This is optional. So if I do this, it is optional if I commented that. But then, since I don't have that string, I will have to take this value and assign it here. So if I run it, method says hello. However, usually if you're gonna have more than one line in a method, in your custom method, if you're gonna calculate and do some computation with your arguments that are passed in, it is a good practice to create a new variable, assign the value of the parameter that the user has passed to your local variable, then work with it. That's going to be easier way. So this is going to be a easy way. Local string. And even, for example, if I create my local string, but if I print argument, it's still going to work, right? Because Java doesn't, for compiler, it doesn't matter where the value is coming from. If it's coming in, it's coming in. It can be assigned, reassigned, etc. But as long as you're passing in a value, it will not complain. Okay. Now there is one thing I want to show you. Remember how we called our method no values accepted without anything? Now, if I try to pass in anything, like if I try to pass in something here, like hello, this is gonna complain. It's gonna say that the method in the is not applicable for the argument string. So look at the signature of this method. Method no values accepted. There is nothing in between parentheses. So this means this method is not accepting any arguments. And when I'm trying to push an argument to this method, it's not gonna work. The same applies to accepting string method, correct? How does it apply? I can type in any kind of a string here, right? 1, 2, 3. It will print method saying 1, 2, 3. And then since I called no value accepted, so let me move it out to avoid confusion, right? So it says method says 1, 2, 3 and whatever. However, if I try to not put anything in this method, it's not gonna work. It's gonna make me pass in a string argument, and string has to be repeated here. I can only pass string argument because my method signature says that I have to pass a string argument. I cannot say 65.4. It will not work because it will say it does not accept a double, it accepts a string argument. Correct. If I pass in number 1, it will not work. Even if I pass in a char like G, it will not work. It will make me pass in a string. If you want to create a method that accepts an int, so for example, you want to create a method that accepts an int, so you will have to create a new method, separate, accepting int values. And I'm gonna put here int. I'm gonna declare the type of the argument that I'm gonna accept with this method, int, and I can call it anything, number, x, y, a, b. Usually it's a common practice to call it x. Sometimes, especially if you're coming from a C programming background, you're gonna call it var. Var stands for variable. Okay, so if I do this and then I say just sysout printing method that accepts int, and then I put here var, that's it. Oops, I'm sorry, cancel. And that's it. Let me change the name here, accepting, right? And if I call this accepting control space, it's going to give me options, accepting int values, and instead of var, I'm going to call it I'm going to pass in, for example, 34. And if I run it, it will run and it will print out printing method that accepts int, and it will print out my number 34. Okay. Now, the reason why you want to pay attention to how you name your arguments is because when you're using IDE, and most of the time, and most of the developers, programmers use IDEs nowadays, when you call a method, for example, accepting string, right? And when you do control space, the name that you call this string variable, the string container, will appear here. So let me do this. Before calling this method, let me call it string str, right? When I call this method accepting string and control space, it will provide the name. So that's why down the road we will see that if you're, for example, developing a method that will accept the name and last name from the user, let's actually do it. Let's give another minute for this to this recording, and let's create another method, and we're going to call it public static void user name, user full name, right? And then let's do this username only, and then we're gonna pass in an argument, string argument that's called name, and then we're going to print out the name with a note here. The user's name is, concatenate this name variable coming from the argument, correct? When I call this username method, it's going to be simple, easy to understand that now I need to pass in a name, and usually name is a string, right? I'm not passing in a number for a name. And then I will come in and I will say John. And then when I will print this, and let me see, okay, there is a error here because we changed the, look at what happened here. When we change the name of the variable that is being passed in, we have to change its use as well. So run. The user's name is John, and that's it. So what we saw today is how to create methods that accept arguments. In the next recording, we'll take it to the next level. I will see you then.